లైవ్లో ఉంది ఇది. ఇదిగో నేను దీన్ని లైవ్లో ఉందని. Hi students, this is Suresh, Senior Biology Faculty. In the previous session, we discussed about spermatogenesis as well as we discussed about oogenesis. So in oogenesis, by the end of oogenesis, one ovum is formed. By the end of oogenesis, one ovum is formed. So this ovum is haploid, which has 23 chromosomes. So from every ovary in female reproductive system, in every month, one female gamete, that is ovum, is formed. So here we have discussed about, here we discussed about the formation of sperms, the formation of we have discussed about the formation of male gametes, the sperm, spermatogenesis, and the formation of, that is the formation of female gamete, ovum, by oogenesis. So now there is a comparison between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So when you take comparative study, spermatogenesis starts at puberty, whereas oogenesis starts in the fetal life itself. So it starts in the fetal life itself. So this starts, it starts at fetal, when it is in fetus only. It starts at puberty stage. So by the time of birth, so primary oocyte undergoes first meiotic division and forms secondary oocyte and the first polar pole. That is, by the time of puberty, the secondary oocyte is formed. But in males, it is not like this. So the spermatogenesis process starts itself at puberty stage and continues. And whereas here, the secondary oocyte undergoes the meiosis II. That is, the secondary oocyte undergoes the meiosis II only after when it comes in contact with sperm. That is ovum and second polar pole. So here from one spermatocyte, 4 spermatozoa are formed. Whereas here from one primary oocyte, only one ovum is formed. So this is when you take a comparative study of spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So here we'll have a detailed discussion of comparison and contrast of the oogenesis and spermatogenesis. Okay. So when you take the common things, that is, it begins with mitosis, later on it involves meiosis, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So both will enlarge, that is, the primary oocyte undergoes before, as well as primary spermatogony undergoes enlargement before meiosis. By then we'll get gametes which are haploid. So that is, specialized gametes are produced. But when you come to contrast, oogenesis takes place in ovaries, whereas spermatogenesis takes place in testes. Oogenesis starts when the female is in fetus stage, whereas spermatogenesis starts at puberty only. So in oogenesis, there is a gap between prophase 1, that is during prophase 1 and between prophase 2 and metaphysis, that is meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. But here there is no gap. It takes one after the other. So here in oogenesis, the cytokinesis is unequal for producing polar bodies. But here it is not like that. The cytokinesis is equal. Here only one ovum is formed, but here 4 sperms are formed. Here no polar bodies are formed in spermatogenesis. Here polar bodies are formed which will degenerate. And this ovum is released on the 14th day of menstrual cycle. But when it comes to the spermatogenesis, it is a continuous production during sexual intercourse. And oogenesis will stop by the end of menopause. But whereas spermatogenesis will continue until death. So this is the comparative and contrasting study of oogenesis and spermatogenesis. So by the end, we got the male and female gametes. So now, let us discuss about an important cycle which takes place in only females, that is menstrual cycle. So which is a very important cycle which operates in females. So where it continues for 29 or 30 days, exactly not, take for a while, for a month. So every month this cycle will repeat. So it is a cyclic process. Many cyclic changes will take place. So here you can see there are changes taking place in the uterine events. There are changes in ovarian hormones like estrogen and progesterone, which are secreted from ovary. And there are changes in ovary, that is the follicular development. And we can see the changes in pituitary hormone levels. So here, as the days proceed, so initially it starts with menstruation and next it is luteal phase. So here, when you come to menstrual cycle, so this menstrual cycle operates in the female primates like monkeys, apes, human beings. So these are rhythmic series of changes. Rhythmic means which takes place in a cyclic manner and it repeats for many times. On an average, it will repeat for 28 to 29 days. So the starting, that is, in a female, the first appearance of menstruation at puberty, it is called menarche, and will stop at the age of 50, which is called menopause, which will stop. That means it will start in puberty and end at the age of 50, which is called menopause. So here, in menstrual cycle, so if you see the menstrual cycle, it can be divided into following phases. So the starting phase is called menstrual phase or bleeding period. Follicular phase, where development of follicle takes place, that is before when egg is released. Next, ovulatory phase, where egg is released, and luteal phase after the release of egg. So that is, if you take this, the first few days, that is 1 to 5 days, it is menstruation. The next, then that is what we call the follicular phase. And next, the release of ovum, that is egg, ovulatory phase. And next, The last one, that is, which lasts up to 28 or 29 days, that is luteal phase, where many changes will take place. So we'll start our discussion with the menstrual phase, the first phase, the initial phase. So this menstrual phase, we can see there is a breakdown of endometrium. Endometrium means which is rich in blood vessels. So this menstruation takes place when fertilization doesn't occur. So when there is no fertilization, the uterus, the endometrium of uterus will rupture, and it leads to, that is, the bleeding. So in this process, along with unfertilized egg, the soft tissues are discharged. So how much time it will take? That is roughly about 3 to 5 days. Okay. So this takes place when ovum is not released. So this is the menstrual phase which takes place. And during this menstrual cycle, the ovarian hormones as well as the pituitary hormones, the LH and FH, are normal. So LH, which are pituitary hormones, FSH, follicular stimulating hormone, the ovarian hormones and progesterone, that is estrogen and progesterone, are normal. So next come to follicular phase. So what is meant by follicular phase? So follicular phase is also called proliferative phase, where we can see the proliferation of endometrium of uterus. That is, the cells of endometrium will divide and form, that is, the thickness of endometrium will increase. So during follicular phase, the changes what we see is the development of follicle. The primary follicle will grow and become fully mature Graafian follicle. That is, there are different stages of follicle: primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, and the final one is Graafian follicle. So these are the changes which takes place in follicle. And the change which takes place in the uterus is the thickness of uterus will increase. At the same time, the ovarian hormones also, the level will increase, as well as pituitary. That is, LH and FSH will stimulate the follicular development as well as secretion of estrogen. So for how many days it will last? It will last about for 10 to 14 days. That is, if you take follicular phase, the major change in the follicle is the development of follicle. Next, the thickness of endometrium will increase due to increase the proliferation. The ovarian hormones level changes, that is LH and FSH, and it lasts for 10 to 14 days. The next is ovulatory phase. So this ovulatory phase, during this ovulatory phase, we can see the increase in the secretion of luteinizing hormone. That means it reaches to maximum level, which is called LH cells. That is, if you see the levels of LH, the LH will reach to peak. Due to this, it leads to ovulation. Ovulation means the release of ovum from Graafian follicle. Ovulation means release of ovum from Graafian follicle. So this process takes place in the mid of the cycle, that is in the menstrual cycle. So how much time it will take? That is 48 hours. That is, the Graafian follicle has released its ovum. Now it has become empty. It lasts for 48 hours. So ovulatory phase means the major event which takes place is ovulation, where the release of ovum takes place. The next phase is luteal phase, which is also called secretory phase. So what happens here? So in this luteal phase, whatever the ruptured follicle, that is the Graafian follicle which has become ruptured, which is empty now, which doesn't have the ovum. So now it changes into corpus luteum. It changes into corpus luteum, so which will secrete an hormone called progesterone, which plays an important role in pregnancy, that is for maintenance of endometrium. Okay. And in luteal phase, the endometrium thickness will increase further, where the glands secrete fluid into uterus. Okay. So in luteal phase, we can see that is the endometrium thickness will increase, as well as the endometrium thickness will increase, as well as the corpus luteum will secrete the progesterone. Okay. So here this corpus luteum which is present, if the ovum is not fertilized, the corpus luteum will degenerate, again leading to menstruation. And during luteal phase, the estrogen and progesterone levels will rise. It lasts for 10 to 14 days. So in secretory phase, we can see the levels of the estrogen and progesterone will increase. That is, the ovarian hormones, specifically when you come to progesterone, the progesterone levels will increase. And when you come to the LH and FSH levels, they come to normal. So thickness of endometrium will increase. And Graafian follicle will develop into corpus luteum. So these are the changes which takes place in secretory phase. So here you can see the changes of various hormones which you oversee. That is, during ovulation, the LH level is high, which is called LH surge. Before ovulation, the estrogen level is high. After ovulation, the progesterone level is high in luteal phase. And in premenstrual phase, that is the before menstruation, again all will come to normal. So these are different hormone levels during the menstrual cycle. These are different hormone levels. So what these hormones will do? What are the different these hormones? What they will do? If you take FSH, it will stimulate follicular growth. That is, the development of follicle from primary to tertiary, secondary to tertiary to Graafian follicle. That is the mature follicle. And as well as it stimulates the secretion of estrogen. What LH will do? LH will cause ovulation. Okay. Due to this ovulation, what happens? It results in the formation of corpus luteum. Corpus luteum means nothing but the ruptured Graafian follicle. And these two are secreted from anterior pituitary gland. Now, when you come to estrogen, it will cause thickening of uterus lining, and that is endometrium, inhibits FSH and LH, and it stimulates increase of LH, release of FSH and LH before pre-ovulation. And when you come to progesterone, it increases the endometrial thickness, inhibits FSH and LH. So these are the roles played by the hormones in a menstrual cycle. That is FSH, LH, estrogen, progesterone. And here you can see that is in a menstrual cycle. In a menstrual cycle, these phases are seen. Menstrual phase, proliferative phase, that is follicular phase, luteal phase, and that is premenstrual phase. So here, if you take this ovarian cycle, in ovarian cycle, the follicular phase, ovulation, luteal phase will take. So this will come under ovarian cycle, which are the events in a menstrual cycle. So this diagram we can see. This is menstrual phase, this is follicular phase, this is luteal phase, and this is premenstrual. So exactly the line where you are seeing this is ovulation, where the ovum is released from the Graafian follicle. And the LH surge we can see during ovulation. And the estrogen level before ovulation is high, whereas the progesterone level after ovulation is high, which is secreted from corpus luteum. Why the progesterone level is high after ovulation? The reason is the corpus luteum will secrete progesterone. So these are the changes you are seeing in menstrual cycle. So now, in a menstrual cycle, so an ovum is released, which is nothing but the female gamete. So this ovum, which is released from the Graafian follicle, in entire the menstrual cycle in 28 or 29 days, only one ovum is released in entire the female reproductive system. So this ovum, when you come to the structure of ovum, it is surrounded by the cells called corona radiata. Below this there is a layer which is called zona pellucida. And there is a space between the zona pellucida and plasma membrane, that is pre-vitelline space. And here there is a haploid nucleus in which there are only 23 chromosomes. So this is the structure of an ovum, which is surrounded by many sperms. So covered by corona radiata, cells of corona radiata. Below this zona pellucida, and below this pre-vitelline space, the plasma. After this, the plasma. So now, after the structure of ovum, so now ovum is ready. The male gametes are ready. What is the next step? Fertilization. So fertilization has to take place, that is the fusion of male gametes, sperm and ovum should take place, means what should be done? So coitus should be done. So during coitus, along with sperms, that is the sperms and the seminal plasma. Semen means it is of sperms and seminal plasma. So which is released into the vagina through penis, which is called insemination. That is the release of semen into vagina through penis, it is called insemination. Now the semen is released into vagina. So the sperms present in the semen will swim, as they have tail, they can swim in the fluid of cervix, which will enter into uterus, and they will enter into the ampullary ischemic junction of oviduct. That is, when you take the direction of the sperms, that is the pathway of sperms, it starts with the vagina, next is cervix, next is uterus, next is the oviduct, they reach up to ampullary ischemic junction of uterus. So at this point, the ampullary ischemic junction Okay. From other side, the ovum will come, where the sperm comes in contact with zone of pellucidum. Okay. So here, when you take the direction of sperm, this is starts from vagina and proceeds towards ampullary ischemic junction. But when you take ovum, the movement, the direction is different. That is, from by fimbri, it enters into the funnel of, that is, infundibulum of the oviduct. Then it reaches to the ampullary ischemic junction. That is, the pathway of ovum is opposite to the pathway of sperms. Both will reach and they will meet at ampullary ischemic junction. So both will meet at ampullary ischemic junction. So as and when they meet at ampullary ischemic junction, so what will happen? Okay. So here there are many sperms. So there is a lot of competition between sperms. Only one ovum. So these sperms, the head of the sperm is covered by a cap-like structure, that is acrosome, so which will dissolve zona pellucida. Okay. That is, the acrosome will secrete the enzymes which will dissolve the layers of the ovum, so that the head of the sperm can penetrate into the ovum. Okay. As and when it enters into the ovum, it leads to the meiotic division. That is, the meiotic division in the oogenesis takes place. That is, the second meiotic division takes place only when the sperm comes in contact with the ovum. So which is a unequal meiotic division. Unequal means a small second polar body is formed and a large haploid ovum is formed. So that's why it is called unequal. So that is, the cytokinesis is unequal, where a small polar body, second polar body is formed and a large haploid ovum is formed. Okay. So as and when one sperm enters into the ovum, immediately there is a lot of change takes place in the ovum. That is, the thickness of zona pellucida will increase. That is, the thickness of zona pellucida, there are a lot of changes takes place in the zona pellucida. So as and when the thickness of zona pellucida increases, what will happen is it will prevent polyspermy. Polyspermy means it will not allow other sperms to enter into the ovum, as already one sperm has entered. Okay. So now the sperm has entered the cross of zona pellucida and has reached the nucleus of ovum. So the nucleus of sperm and the nucleus of ovum will fuse. So here the important aspect here is, in sperm only the nucleus of sperm will fuse. So remaining all are left out. That is the tail, the middle piece, neck, everything is the only nucleus will fuse. So which leads to the formation of a diploid zygote. So now zygote has formed. Okay. That is, fertilization is completed where a diploid unicellular zygote is formed. So this diploid unicellular zygote which is formed, that is, the next is embryogeny, the development of male and the development of the fetus, the young one. So here when we come to the sex determination in humans, so how the sex is determined. So in humans, if we take there are total 46 chromosomes. In this 46, 44 are autosomes. That is, 44 chromosomes are autosomes which will determine the normal body characteristic features. Whereas remaining 2, that is 6 chromosomes, which will determine the sex of the offspring. So here when you come to 6 chromosomes, in mother there are 44 is common in both male and female. Here there are 2 X chromosomes. Here there is 1 X and 1 Y chromosome. As there are 2 different types of sex chromosomes in male, and there are same type of sex chromosomes in female. So here what happens is the meiosis takes place in both. During the formation of gamete, meiosis takes place. Okay, in meiosis, by the end of, in males, by the end of spermatogenesis, sperms are formed. That is the male gamete. So in these sperms, there are only half of the autosomes, 22 autosomes with 1 sex chromosome. That is, 50% of the male gametes will have X chromosomes and 50% of the male gametes will have Y chromosome. That is, the chromosomes, the male gametes with X chromosomes, they are called gynosperm, and the male gamete with Y chromosome, it is called androsperm. That means here there are in males 2 types of gametes are formed. That is, male gametes with X chromosome, male gametes with Y chromosome. That is, here we can see gynosperms and androsperms. Gynosperms means sperms which have X chromosome. Androsperms means sperms which have Y chromosome. That is, in males there are 2 types of gametes. But whereas when you come to females, it is not like this. There are 2 X chromosomes. All the egg cells, that is all the ovum, will have X chromosome. 22 autosomes, 1 X chromosome. So here, the ovum which fuses with gynosperm, we can see a baby girl. The ovum which fuses with androsperm, we can see a baby boy. That is, the sex of the offspring, that is the next generation, is decided by the female, not by, it is decided by the male, that is father, not by the mother. Why it is not by mother, but generally in the society, we will blame the mother only. But when you come to scientifically, it is not mother. The father is responsible for the sex of the child. Why? Because the males will produce 2 types of gametes, that is androsperms and gynosperms. But there is no such like of differentiation in females. So this is how the sex determination is done in humans. So here you can see clearly the picture. So in males, that is diploid, if you take 44 autosomes X and Y sex chromosomes, diploid XX. So 22 plus X, this is gynosperm. This is androsperm. But here there is no such like of differentiation. The female gamete which fuses with gynosperm, which leads to the female, that is the baby girl. Whereas the female gamete which fuses with androsperm, it is the baby boy. So here who is responsible for the sex determination of the child is the male, the father. It is not the mother. But what is happening in the society is, most of the cases they will blame mother. But it is not like this. It is due to the father who will produce 2 types of gametes, which is seen in the males, that is, in males, 50% of the sperms will be of with X chromosome, 50% of the sperms with Y chromosome. But in females, it is 100% with X chromosome. So here you can see the sperms produced by male, which has 50% has 22 with X chromosome, 50% has 22 with Y chromosome. So in males, there are two types of gametes. That's why it is called heterogametic. Hetero means different. That is 50% of the gametes with X, 50% of the gametes with Y. But whereas when we come to inhuman females, it is homogametic. Only one type of gametes are produced. That is 22 plus X. Only one type of gamete. That is, when we come to humans, the males are heterogametic, the females are homogametic. Only homo means only one type of gamete is produced. Hetero means two types of gametes are produced. So it depends on the sex of the child, depends on the fusion of with what type of sperm, whether it is androsperm or whether it is the gymnosperm. Okay, so now fertilization is done. Zygote is formed. The isthmus ampullary is the junction of the fallopian tube. So now what happens to zygote? What will happen to zygote? So zygote will start, that is the mitotic division, and simultaneously it will move. That means in zygote we can see the movement of zygote towards uterus, as well as we can see the division, the mitotic division in the zygote. So this mitotic divisions and the movement, this is called cleavage. So here in mitotic division, from one cell, two cells are formed. That means every time it becomes double. Every time what will happen? Doubles. That is 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, like this it will become double every time. So the stage where from 8 to 16 cells, that is called blastomeres, it is called morula. That is, there are different stages in the development of embryo. That is 8 to 16 cell stage, it is called morula. After 16 cell stage, it is called blastocyst. That is, by the time it forms the blastocyst or blastula, it reaches to uterus. That means if you see the journey of zygote, it starts with isthmus, that is ampullary isthmic junction. Next it reaches to uterus, where it doesn't move till by the end of birth of the child, that is fertilization. And in the development of zygote, due to mitotic division, every time the number of cells will become double. That is 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 526, like this, every time it becomes double. So by the time it reaches to uterus, it will be in blastocyst stage. So in blastocyst, that is, the cells which are present in embryo, they are called blastomeres. They are called blastomeres, which are arranged in the outer layer. So when you come to the blastocyst, so this blastocyst, it has an outermost layer that is called trophoblast, to which it is attached to endometrium of uterus. And below this trophoblast there is inner cell mass which develops into the embryo. Okay. So this attachment of the blastocyst to endometrium of fetus, it is called implantation. That is, the blastocyst is very closely associated with endometrium, the cells of endometrium of fetus. So this attachment is called implantation. So here you can see the diagram clearly, the different stages. This is secondary oocyte. This is fertilization. So after fertilization we will get one cell zygote. So here you can see 2 cell stage. This is 4 cell stage. This is 8 cell stage. Next 16 cell stage. This 8 to 16 cell stage is called morula. After that it is called blastocyst. So here you can see the blastocyst, where the outermost layer of cells, it is called trophoblast, by which it is attached to the endometrium of fetus, and this is called inner cell mass. This is called inner cell mass. So here you can see the days also, that is zygote, which is formed in the fallopian tube. So day 1 gradually moving, day 2, day 3. As it is gradually moving, we can see the number of cells also increasing. 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16 cells. So this layer is the endometrium of fetus, to which the blastocyst is embedded, that is attached to the endometrium of fetus, which is called implantation. So implantation means the attachment of, that is the embedding of the blastocyst, that is nothing but embryo, to the endometrium of fetus, which is called implantation. Okay. Once it is implanted, there is no movement in this. There is no further movement. But the development of embryo will continue. The development will continue, but there is no movement. Okay. So this is. Okay. So here you can see. Okay. So here you can see the structure of blastocyst very clearly. So this is the outermost layer of cells, that is blastomeres, which is called trophoblast. And these are inner cell mass, that is the cells which are present inside the trophoblast, that is inner cell mass. And there is a fluid filled cavity which is called blastocele. It is the fluid filled cavity is called blastocele. So here you can see the fetus development which is taking place in the uterus. Okay. So here you can see this is the development of, that is the embryo which develops, which is attached to the uterus. Okay. So between the fetus and the mothers, that is the, when we come to the this one, there is a barrier which is called placenta, so which will form a connectivity between the fetus and mother's blood. So this placenta will form umbilical cord, by which the fetus is attached to the placenta. So what placenta will do is, the placenta will transport oxygen and nutrients to fetus, as well as it will remove the waste materials. So placenta plays a major role transporting of oxygen, nutrients, water, as well as removal of waste material from the fetus. So here you can see these are umbilical cords and the layer which surrounds the fetus, which is called the placenta. Okay. So this is the embryo which develops into fetus. This is yolk sac. This is wall of fetus. Okay. So during the development of the embryo, that is the fetus and the young one, a plug is formed with the help of mucus in the cervix, so that it is intact. Okay. So here, what happens during the embryonic development? So during the development of embryo, that is the trophoblast of the blastocyst, so which forms a finger-like projections. So the trophoblast will form a finger-like projection. So these finger-like projections are called chorionic villi. The finger-like projections are called chorionic villi. In between these finger-like projections, the uterus tissue is fixed. That is, this uterus tissue along with this, the chorionic villi, it will form placenta. That is, what we are seeing the placenta is a combination of the chorionic villi and the tissue of endometrium, that is uterus as well. So this placenta forms the structural and functional unit between developing embryo and the mother. The maternal body means the mother. Okay. So the structural and functional unit means which will conduct the oxygen, that is which will transport oxygen, nutrients, water to the fetus, as well as it will remove the waste materials. So it is the structural and functional unit of the between the fetus and the developing embryo and the maternal body. Okay. So these are the functions of plasma. That is, provides nutrients and oxygen to the embryo, removes carbon dioxide and waste material from the embryo. And not only these functions, it will act like endocrine tissue, which will produce many hormones. So during pregnancy, like human chorionic gonadotropin, human placental lactogen, as well as estrogen and progesterone secreted, which are important for maintaining pregnancy. And even during pregnancy, the thyroid gland, that is the other hormone levels will also rise. But during pregnancy, only these hormones can be seen, that is human chorionic gonadotropin, human placental lactogen are formed only during pregnancy. So when you come to human chorionic gonadotropin, so this human chorionic gonadotropin will play an important role in maintaining pregnancy, as well as it plays an important role in identifying the pregnancy, that is, confirming the pregnancy. So whatever the urine comes from this, that is, the urine comes from the during pregnancy stage. Okay. So whatever the pregnancy test is done, it is based on HCG, where two red lines it will represent pregnant. Only one line which is present, it is not pregnant. So here you can see positive, two red lines are formed. Okay. Whereas another one negative, only one red line is present. Positive means pregnant, negative means not pregnant. So in this confirming the pregnancy, that is, HCG plays an important role. So why it is taken into criteria? The reason for this is Only during pregnancy this is secreted, remaining times it is not secreted. Human chorionic gonadotropin. Okay. So now we will see the embryonic development. Okay. And during the stages of development of embryo, along with this hormone, relaxin is secreted by ovary. So what it will do is, relaxin will relax the ligaments of pelvis and softens and widens the cervix. So it is preparation for childbirth. And during pregnancy, other hormonal levels also will increase, that is estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, thyroxine levels will increase, which are meant for fetal growth, the metabolic changes in the mother and maintenance of pregnancy. So the purpose of increasing these hormones, that is estrogen, progesterone, prolactin, the thyroxine, it is meant for fetal growth and maintenance of pregnancy. And I already told, the placenta will form an umbilical cord which connects the placenta with the embryo. Okay. And during the development of embryo, that is after blastocyst, 3 layers are formed: ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. The outer layer ectoderm, the innermost layer endoderm, between these two the mesoderm. Okay. So here you can see, that is transformation of blastocyst to gastrula. There is a gradual transfer. First 8 to 16 cell stage, morula. After that blastocyst, day 6. Day 10, that is you can see late blastocyst. After that we can see gastrula, where we can see 3 layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. So here we are able to see 3 layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, from which various organs will develop. So here you can see from ectoderm, the layers like the parts like skin, hair, nose, mouth, nervous system. Endoderm, digestive tract, respiratory tract, liver, pancreas will develop. Mesoderm, muscles and skeleton skeletal system will develop. Okay. So here how this development takes place. Here you can see, this is cells of inner mass, which will differentiate to form amnion. Okay. So here you can see gastrula develops when cells begin to migrate towards inward, form an indentation, which will form an indentation. Due to this inward movement, that is, which will form endoderm. Cells that remain outer surface, that is ectoderm. This is ectoderm, this is endoderm. Between mesoderm is formed. Okay. So in inner cell mass, that is the stem cells, these cells present in inner cell mass are called stem cells. So they are stem cells or potent cells which can give rise to tissues as well as organs. They are potent. So as the development of embryo takes place from the day of fertilization to the entire gestation period, we can see gradual development. Like after 1 month, we can see the formation of heart. In 2nd month, we can see the formation of limbs and digits, that is the fingers, toes. 3rd month, most organs are developed. That is, by 3rd month, it reaches to a shape which is called fetus. It reaches to a shape that is called fetus. In 5th month, we can see the appearance of hair on head, and movement is observed very clearly. After 6 months, that is after 6 months, we can see development of eyelids, eyelashes. By the end of 9 months of pregnancy, the fetus is completely developed. So that is, during the development of the fetus, the embryogenesis, that is from the day of fertilization to the childbirth, which takes exactly about 9 months, which is called gestation period. So during this gestation period, we can see gradual development. The first month, heart. Second month, that is the limbs and digits. The third month, we can see the shape. In fifth month, the hair on the head. In sixth month, eyelids, eyelashes. But then we can see complete. Complete development means it is ready for delivery. You can see the stages of gestation from fertilization to 12-week fetus. So this entire 9 months gestation period is divided into 3 trimesters. First trimester, that is first trimester means 13th week up to 13th. Second trimester, week 14 to 27. Third trimester, week 28 to week 40. Okay. So 3 trimesters. So now the development has completed. Now it is ready for the delivery. So during delivery, there are 3 stages of parturition. Parturition means the delivery of baby. So during delivery, that is, you can see, so here a 9-month-old fetus which is fully developed. The head is facing towards vagina. So here what happens is, in the first stage of birth, cervix dilates. That is, the cervical canal, that is, cervix will dilate. Amniotic fluid which surrounds this one will rupture. The sac which surrounds. In the second stage, the head of the fetus will emerge. In the third stage, the entire expelling of the baby along with umbilical cord. So when the baby is born, it is attached with umbilical cord. And during the time of parturition, the placenta along with umbilical cord is expelled out. That is, this act of expelling the fully developed fetus of the completion of this is called parturition. And this parturition is a neuroendocrine mechanism. So neuroendocrine mechanism means here nervous system as well as endocrine glands are involved here. So when the fetus is fully developed, it gives a signal, that is the parturition signal comes from fully developed fetus and the placenta, which will induce the uterine contractions. Uterine contractions means the myometrium of uterus will contract, which is made up of smooth walled muscles. The myometrium is made up of smooth muscles which will contract during parturition. Okay. So which leads to fetal, it is called fetal ejection reflex. So due to this, it will trigger the secretion of oxytocin from pituitary gland. So this is oxytocin is a hormone which will further increase the contraction of uterus. So that what happens till it leads to further contraction, which leads to expulsion of baby through birth canal, that is cervical canal and vagina. So which is a parturition is a neuroendocrine mechanism where fetal ejection reflex is involved. After parturition, next stage the female enters is the lactation, that is the milk secretion stage, which is called lactation, where mammary glands will undergo differentiation and start producing milk. And this milk is for feeding the newborn. So whatever the milk comes initially after fertilization, it is called colostrum, which is rich in antibodies. IgA is one of the antibody which is rich in colostrum, as well as is rich in calcium, fats, lactose, the milk sugar. So whatever the IgA which is rich in colostrum, which will provide passive immunity, that is, the baby will get directly antibodies from mother's milk, which is called passive immunity. That's why the breastfeeding is very important for a newborn. And the milk production is controlled by an hormone called prolactin, which is secreted from the pituitary gland. So milk secretion is under the control of prolactin, where it will control the secretion of milk production. So here the oxytocin plays an important role in parturition. Prolactin plays an important role in the milk production. So that's all about the human reproduction, where we discussed about the reproductive systems, gametogenesis, menstrual cycle, fertilization, the development of embryo and the fetus, the gestation period, the parturition, and next the final one is lactation. So that's all for today's session. Thank you all. We'll meet in the next session.